In the 15th year of our marriage, Lu Jian lost his memory. He forgot everything, save for one thing, to make concubine Song his official wife. I seized the opportunity, placing the divorce papers I had long prepared into his hands. Yesterday, you said you wanted to divorce me. With reddened eyes, his hands trembling, he signed his name and pressed his thumbprint. As I walked out of the Lu manor, concubine Song hurried after me. Sister, at least wait for Linjer to return from his studies. See him one last time before you go. I glanced at the young man rushing up behind her and shook my head. There's no need. Though he is my biological son, I hold no affection for him. With that, I strode out the gates. I have lingered for far too long. Now, I only wish to leave, the farther the better. Mother! The young man ran to block my path. He looked at me, his eyes filled with confusion and blame. Why must you do this? His eyes gradually turned red. My father is only ill. When he recovers. I did not interrupt him, but he could not continue. Everyone in the Lu manor knew that although Lu Jian had been married to me for 15 years, he held little affection for me. Yesterday, he had fallen from his horse while on an outing with a friend. The first words he spoke upon waking were, "In this life, I will only recognize Lionel as my wife." Of everything else, he remembered nothing. Linjer, your father and your little mother share a deep and devoted love. Now that I am leaving to grant them their happiness, you should be pleased. He was only 14, still a child, and did not understand the affairs of adults. But your child does not want you to go. Can you? Can you stay for my sake? He was my own flesh and blood, the only person in this world who shared my bloodline. Marrying Lu Jian was to obey my parents' command, and for the sake of a young girl's love. But staying in the Lu family for over a decade was for the sake of my child. Although, from the moment he was born, Lu Jian had forcibly given him to the Baron Song Lionel. A mother's heart is always filled with endless worry for her child. I held out my wrist, take my pulse again. He had studied medicine under the imperial physician Su since childhood, tasting 100 herbs, and his medical skills were superb. Linjer gently placed his fingers on my wrist. He frowned, his gaze fixed, his fingers trembling slightly. His voice grew hoarse. How can this be? Wasn't the poison cured? A physician cannot heal himself. When he had tested a poison on himself and fallen into a coma, I tested the medicine on myself for his sake and was gravely poisoned. Except, Song Lionel had also drunk the medicine and been poisoned. I had always thought she did it out of concern for the child, but after she drank the potion, she came to my side and whispered, "There is only one dose of the antidote. Tell me, when Linjer wakes, will he give it to you, his birth mother, or to me, his adoptive mother?" It turned out this was all Song Lionel's scheme. She gambled with her life, not because she did not fear death, but because she knew all too well the depth of Linjer's feelings for her. And even if Linjer hesitated, how could Lu Jian allow the woman he loved to die just like that? The result was just as she had predicted. Linjer hesitated again and again, but in the end, he decided to give the medicine to the person who had raised him for 14 years. In this gamble, the one to die could only be me. Whether this poison can be cured, you know best, don't you? Linjer's face was deathly pale. He lowered his head, not daring to meet my eyes. He had once sworn that he would definitely cure me, but how could everything in this world go as one wished? I do not wish to spend what little time I have left trapped here, watching over people who are not worth it. I walked around him and boarded the carriage. The clatter of hooves was too loud. I did not hear Linjer murmur, "Not worth it." I traveled north. The war in the northwest was escalating, and the journey was not peaceful. My lady, I hear there are often bandits in this area. Qinglu tightened her grip on her longsword. She and Yin Shuang were left to me by my mother. They had trained in martial arts since childhood and were highly skilled. I've made you suffer, following me in this life of wandering. The two exchanged a smile. My lady jests, you are the one who was tricked by us. Their hometown was in the northwest, a land of vast, majestic mountains and endless deserts, completely different from the Jiangnan region where I had grown up. This is what they had told me, and though I kept it in my heart, I felt little connection to it. But 6 months ago, for some unknown reason, I had felt an urgent desire to see it. I lifted the carriage curtain. The scenery outside had already changed from the misty rains of the south to the low-hanging skies of the north. My lady, is that a person? As dusk settled, a young man lay stiffly in the grass, the blood from his wounds dyeing the surrounding blades a dark green. He's Han, let's get him up here first. The young man was gravely injured. A gash on his neck was so deep the bone was visible, and his body was covered in whip marks of all sizes. We found a nearby clinic. The doctor shook his head repeatedly. He can't be saved. These whip marks may not look severe, but the person who inflicted them was vicious, lacing the whip with poison. The boy looked to be only 13 or 14. Was his young life to end here? Please, just do what you can. Whether he lives is up to fate. The doctor took the silver and nodded. Unexpectedly, just as dawn broke, the boy's eyes fluttered open. My lady, what is he saying? I leaned down to listen. He was murmuring a string of names of medicinal herbs. Because Linger studied medicine, I had read many medical texts and seen numerous herbs myself. I quickly wrote down the names he spoke. These herbs, can they cure the poison in your body? He nodded forcefully. The intense desire to live in his eyes moved me. The doctor took the prescription. This is a strange formula. Are you sure he wasn't just talking in his sleep? Let's try it. The doctor nodded and went to prepare the medicine. The herbs were not rare and could be found in any common apothecary. The young man drank the medicine for over 10 days, his complexion improving with each passing day. On the 20th day, he was fully conscious. We learned his name was Yi Rong. He was an orphan who had followed an itinerant doctor since childhood. A few days ago, the Hu people had tried to force the doctor to treat their general. When the doctor refused, they burned him alive. He looked into my eyes. Madam, are you poisoned? Without waiting for my reply, he took my hand to check my pulse, remaining silent for a long time. Fearing he would feel pressured, I smiled to comfort him. Even the imperial physicians in the palace were helpless against this poison. You needn't blame yourself. After I was poisoned, Lu Jian had summoned every doctor in Jinling, even inviting imperial physicians to the manor to treat me. But after a year of effort, there was little effect. He paused, then smiled. So the imperial physicians are all quacks. What? He looked triumphant. Madam's poison is not incurable. It will just take some effort. Yin Shuang looked him up and down. Don't you go making promises you can't keep. If you harm Our Lady, I'll twist your head off. Yi Rong was unfazed. If I can't cure her, you won't have to do a thing. I'll cut my own head off and present it to you for sport. I laughed. Then I shall be in your care. We rented a courtyard next to the clinic, which was convenient for Yi Rong to recover and for him to treat me. At night, I brought him a soup I had made. Seeing him still poring over medical texts, his thin frame and furrowed brow reminded me a little of Linger. I couldn't help but say, "You can read more tomorrow. Be careful with your eyes." He looked up, his gaze falling on the soup in my hands, and his eyes slowly welled with tears. No one has ever cared for me like this. His parents had died when he was young. Although the doctor had taught him medicine, he had a bad temper and would often beat and scold him. Yi Rong, if you don't mind, you could acknowledge me as your adoptive mother. His eyes widened. You, but I am just a poor commoner. Silly child, what mother in this world would despise her own child for being poor? He suddenly rushed over, fell to his knees before me and kowtowed several times. Mother. Rongjer, get up quickly. From that day on, Yi Rong was always by my side, calling mother, mother incessantly. Whenever Yin Shuang and King Lu saw him, they would cover their ears. One day, Yi Rong went out to buy medicine and did not return for a long time. Yin Shuang went searching for him time and again. It was not until nightfall that she ran in, breathless. Yi Rong got into a fight with the son of the special envoy from the capital while buying medicine. What? The needlework in my hand fell to the floor. Let's go, quickly. When we arrived, we saw several officers pinning Yi Rong to the ground in front of an apothecary. Mother, seeing me being shoved by an officer, Yi Rong immediately struggled. I was the one who hit him. It has nothing to do with my mother. Don't you dare touch her. An officer looked me up and down, his gaze landing on the jade pendant at my waist. Madam, please don't take offense. My young master was buying medicine to treat my lady. It was truly ill-mannered of your son to snatch it away. You're lying. I clearly bought the medicine first. Amid the argument, a young man walked out of the apothecary. Mother. I looked up. It was Linger. Linger walked over to me in a few strides. What are you doing here? Release him first. Linger was confused, but he waved his hand for the officers to let Yi Rong go. Wait. A rush of footsteps came from behind, and the officers all knelt in salute. Such a grand display could only belong to one person, Special Envoy Lu, who had just arrived yesterday. He walked over slowly, looking down at me. Standing beside him was Concubine Song. No, I should call her Lady Lu now. What are you doing here? His gaze remained fixed on my face, his hands clenched into fists as if restraining something. I looked at Lu Jian. It had been over half a year since I left the manor, and he had grown thinner. Still, his appearance was not much different from when I first met him. No matter how much time had passed, I still remembered that early spring day when he stood under the willow tree in the courtyard, speaking with my father. He was graceful and elegant, like a piece of fine jade. My father told me that was the man to whom I was betrothed as a child. Lu Jian's father had been demoted by the late emperor and died in a foreign land, leaving the Lu family in decline. My father, a man of integrity, would never break the engagement for such a reason, and I had fallen for Lu Jian at first sight. After we married, Lu Jian and I shared a period of loving bliss, which is how we came to have Linjer. But not long after I became pregnant with Linjer, Lu Jian's mother, on the pretext that I was unable to serve my husband, forced him to take Song Lioner as a concubine. Lu Jian was extremely reluctant and was punished by being forced to kneel in the ancestral hall for a day and a night. My heart ached for him, and I took it upon myself to welcome her into the manor. Only later did I learn that this was all a scheme concocted by him and his mother. Song Lioner was his childhood sweetheart, but her family's low status offered no help to his career, which was why he had married me. As fate would have it, less than 5 months into my pregnancy, my father was reprimanded by the late emperor for his frank admonishment and died of a fit of anger shortly after returning home. My mother was in poor health and had only borne me, a single daughter. Although my grandmother had repeatedly tried to make my father take a concubine, he had always refused, eventually threatening to take his own life to put an end to the elder's wishes. I thought Lu Jian and I would also live a life of such devotion. But after my father's death, his feelings for Song Lioner began to surface. On the very night I went into labor, he forcibly took Linjer and gave him to Song Lioner. He said that Song Lioner's health was poor and she couldn't conceive, and that we would have other children. That was the child I had carried for 10 months, the child I had nearly bled to death for after 3 days and nights of labor, given away with a single, careless sentence. But with my father gone and my mother bedridden, Lu Jian's career soared. I no longer had any backing in the Lu manor. To prevent me from fighting with Song Lioner over the child, he requested a decree from the emperor to take her and Linjer to Qingzhou, where they stayed for 5 full years. When I saw my son again, he had been raised to be exceptionally polite. He greeted me with 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows, calling me mother. But when he looked at me, his eyes were filled with indifference. "Do you know where Langcheng is?" Lu Jian's voice pulled me back to the present. He stared intently into my eyes, awaiting my answer. "It's less than 30 li from the city gates." He nodded. "Then do you know that there is a war going on in Langcheng?" "I do." He suddenly frowned and grabbed my wrist. "If you know, how dare you come here? Do you want to feed the Hu people's blades with your blood?" His grip was so strong it sent a sharp pain through my wrist. "What does it matter to you, whether I live or die?" Just as Lu Jian was about to speak, Song Lioner rushed forward to smooth things over. "Sister, although you have divorced my husband, in the eyes of outsiders, you are still the matriarch of the Lu family. If you were to die here, how would my husband and Linjer face the world?" Lu Jian released my hand, his face cold. "Get back to Jinling, don't be an eyesore here. What right do you have to decide for me?" Lu Jian turned and glared at me. As we stood in a stalemate, Song Lioner suddenly clutched her heart and let out a delicate moan. "Husband, Lioner is in such pain." Lu Jian immediately went to her side and supported her, then turned to Linjer. "Since you have the medicine, hurry back to the residence and give it to your little mother." "Yes." With a worried expression, Linjer ordered his men to take the medicine away. Yi Rong shot up, shoved the officer holding him to the ground, and threw himself over the medicine to protect it. "This medicine is mine. It's to save my mother. The young master's little mother may be precious, but does that mean my mother deserves to die?" Linjer looked as if he was about to strike, but then seemed to remember something and glanced at me. Lu Jian understood instantly and sneered. "I was wondering why you would rush here knowing full well there's a war on. Now I see the reason." Song Lioner's eyes widened. Could it be that sister knew I needed this medicine and had someone buy it in advance? Yi Rong had searched the entire city for this herb without success. Fortunately, the apothecary's owner was an old acquaintance of Yi Rong's master and had bought it at a high price from a merchant from the western regions. Linjer also looked at me in astonishment, a hint of blame in his eyes. "Mother, how could you? Are you trying to send my little mother to her death?" Lu Jian's gaze was icy. "You truly haven't changed. You're as vicious and cold-blooded as ever." "As ever?" I slowly approached him and asked softly, "You still remember how I was before? Didn't you forget everything from the past?" His expression changed. I heard it from others. I had no intention of exposing his charade. The night before his accident, Song Lioner had caused a scene about wanting to be a wife of equal standing. The next day, he fell from his horse, lost his memory, and forgot everything except making her a wife of equal standing. Wasn't that a bit too coincidental? Shopkeeper Sue. Shopkeeper Sue hurried over. "Yes, ma'am. May I ask, did you wrong pay for this medicine first, or did this young Master Lu pay first?" Shopkeeper Sue was a businessman and dared not offend an official like Lu Jian. He lowered his head, not daring to answer. "Lord Lu," I turned to face Lu Jian, "your official authority is truly impressive. You've intimidated a common citizen into silence." Since he was young, Lu Jian had wanted to follow in his father's footsteps and be an honest and upright official. Hearing my sarcastic tone, he glared at Linjer and said coldly to Shopkeeper Sue, "Just tell the truth." Shopkeeper Sue glanced nervously at Linjer and Song Lioner before replying in a small voice, It was ye wrong who paid first." "Very well," I looked at Linjer with a cold smile. "The transaction is complete. Why did you detain him, young Master Lu? Were you planning to rob him?" A crowd of onlookers had gathered. In these troubled times, the common people suffered greatly from the Hu invasions. Now, seeing an official from the court bullying one of their own, their resentment began to stir. Lu Jian stared at me coldly. "What use do you have for this medicine?" "Linjer," I looked at him, "tell your father what use I have for this medicine." As soon as I finished speaking, Song Lioner moaned in pain again, her face pale. "Sister, don't make things difficult for the child. My life is of little worth. It matters not if I die." With that, she clutched her heart, her breathing faint. Linjer stammered, as if each word burned him like fire. "Why mother needs this medicine, your son? Your son truly does not know." Yin Shuang supported me, her eyes red. "Young master, how can you say such a thing? You know perfectly well this is the medicine that will save my lady's life." Linjer lowered his head, unable to face Yin Shuang's questioning, much less meet my eyes. I suddenly wanted to laugh. I must have been out of my mind to ask him such a question. Song Lioner gracefully rose and walked to stand in front of Linjer, shielding him. "That young man just said the medicine was to save his mother, yet sister says she needs it for herself. Who are we to believe?" I looked at her and explained patiently, "Yi Rong is my son, my only son." "Mother," Linjer's head snapped up, his lips white as he stared at me in disbelief. "How can you say that? I am your biological son. You are Song Lioner's child." That is what he had told me himself when he was 8. In this life, he would always be Song Lioner's child. I was merely the matriarch of the Lu Manor, and he would call me mother out of formality, nothing more. In the Lu Manor, I was your official mother. But now that I have divorced your father, I have no connection to you, to your father, or to the entire Lu family. "Mother," I turned my face away. "I am just a common woman. I am not worthy of being called mother by young Master Lu. Yin Shuang, go and retrieve the medicine Rongjer bought." But Lu Jian blocked her way. "Are you truly abandoning your own son?" I looked up at him, my heart like a field ravaged by fire, barren and calm. "Lord Lu, on the day I gave birth, before the smell of blood had even faded from the room, you forced me to say that my son had died, that the one who survived could only be Song Lioner's child. Now I have finally done as you wished. You should be happy." Lu Jian's arm trembled slightly. He was about to say more when concubine Song behind him let out a soft gasp and her body went limp, collapsing to the ground in a deathly faint. "Lioner!" Both Lu Jian and Lu Lingxuan panicked and rushed to carry her into the apothecary. "Let's go." The officers looked at each other, but in the end, none dared to stop us. We returned to our courtyard and had a few peaceful days, but Rongjer was listless. "Were you injured that day and didn't tell me?" He shook his head, his eyes filled with tears as he looked at me. "Are you good to me only because I know medicine? Your son, he knows medicine too." "Of course not. I am good to you because we were fated to meet. You grew up without parents, and my heart truly aches for you." I used a handkerchief to wipe the tears from his face, amused by him. Such a big boy and still crying. He suddenly blushed, roughly wiping his tears with his sleeve. When he turned back, he still looked pitiful. "Actually, I've thought it through these past few days. Even if you took me as your adoptive son for other reasons, it doesn't matter. You are my mother for my whole life. I will be filial to you, treat you well, and protect you." A warmth spread through my heart. Since my parents passed away, No one had ever said such words to me. In the Lu manor, I was the high and mighty matriarch, yet I was always the one who was abandoned. Rongjer, I pulled the child into my arms. Mother has only you as her child. Just as I spoke, there was a noise at the door. I looked over and saw Lu Lingxuan standing there in a daze, the things in his hands having fallen to the ground. He walked in quickly. Mother, he is your only child, then what am I? What are you doing here? He just looked at me, my words hitting him like a heavy hammer. His expression was pained, his body rigid. Mother, you're just lying to him, aren't you? I know you're angry. You're angry that I disregarded your health to forcibly buy medicine for my little mother. But I had my reasons. Your poison was supposed to act up 3 months ago, but aren't you fine now? I sighed, no longer feeling the heart-wrenching disappointment I once did for him. You were raised by Song Lioner. I don't blame you for your deep feelings for her. But Linjer, I am human too. I cannot stand behind you and love you without complaint after you have abandoned me time and time again. But I am your biological son. You said you would always be good to me. Was it because of that promise that he felt so free to hurt me? I looked at his face, which bore a 5/10 resemblance to my own, and had no heart to argue. Then consider my promise broken. He stood rooted to the spot, sobbing quietly. Why did you come today? He would never seek me out for no reason. That medicine. Before he could finish, Yi Rong cut him off harshly. You still have the nerve to ask for it. How is that any different from stabbing my mother with a knife? At least the latter wouldn't cause her so much pain. Every time the poison acted up, it felt as if 1,000 rats were gnawing their way from my heart through my entire body. I had endured this agony for 3 years. Leave, I don't want to see you again. If you think you can use our mother-son bond to force me to give you the medicine, then forget it. In truth, I was very suspicious of the poison Song Lioner had taken. Would she really use her own life to plot against me? Did she hate me that much? Since she entered the manor, all of Lu Jian's affection had been hers. Her food, clothing, and expenses were all luxurious. Even my son was hers. What did I have that was worth her hating me to death for? King Lu was about to shove Lu Lingxuan out the door when she saw a figure standing at the entrance, radiating fury. Lu Jian walked slowly to stand before Lu Lingxuan, his gaze chilling, his voice suppressing a storm of anger. What did you just say? The poison in your mother's body was never cured. After I was poisoned, Lu Jian, perhaps fearing that my agonizing death would tarnish the Lu family's reputation or that he would be accused of mistreating his wife, had hired countless doctors, even the imperial physicians. But after a long time, I was not cured. Unable to bear the disturbance, I bribed an imperial physician to tell Lu Jian that my poison had been neutralized. When the day came that the poison finally claimed me, I would just have Yin Shuang and King Lu make up some excuse. My death was not worth Lu Jian's effort to investigate. With me gone, he could finally elevate Song Lioner, and no one would blame the imperial physician. Lu Lingxuan lowered his head, trembling. When did you find out? Lu Jian's voice was thick with suppressed rage. I felt weary. What new drama was this? Lu Lingxuan's Adam's apple bobbed as he answered with a trembling voice. 6 months ago. When Mother left the manor, I took her pulse. Lu Jian's brow furrowed. 6 months ago. Lu Lingxuan nodded. Lu Jian turned his head, his lips pressed tight as he looked at me. When you left, you intended never to return. A thought seemed to strike him. If you hadn't met this young man, you might not be alive today, would you? You can all leave now. Don't dirty my courtyard with your hypocrisy. Lu Jian looked at the woman before him, an indescribable pain spreading from the bottom of his heart. He had almost truly lost her. He suddenly realized something and turned to Lu Lingxuan. Does your little mother know about this? Lu Lingxuan froze, then slowly nodded. She knows. Lu Jian staggered back a few steps, steadying himself against a stone table. He let out a few bitter laughs and rushed out the door. He galloped back to his residence, ordering everyone to be silent, and slipped into Song Lioner's courtyard alone. She and her maid were talking. The master and the young master have both gone to get medicine for you, my lady. Song Lioner's brow did not smooth at the old nanny's words. She sighed. They had better have gone for my sake. The nanny asked, confused. Actually, my lady, there was no need for you to risk your life by drinking that poison. Mistress Zhu has already divorced the master and fled to this remote place. She poses no threat to you. Song Lioner glared at her. If she were truly no threat, why am I still just a concubine after all this time? Why did Lu Jian have the steward beaten with 30 strokes and sent to a country estate for hard labor just for calling her cold-blooded? At the door, Lu Jian's heart felt as if it were being torn apart. He knew faking amnesia was a poor strategy, but there was no perfect solution in this world. He also knew Zhu Yunhua had always hated him. He didn't want that hatred to deepen, but he also wanted to fulfill Song Lioner's wish to become a wife of equal standing. She was right. Linjer was growing up, and it was time to discuss his marriage. The status of a son born to a concubine was never good. He had wanted to use this to persuade Zhu Yunhua to agree, but he knew her temper. She would agree for the sake of her child, but he feared he would never be allowed into her courtyard again. So he listened to a servant's foolish idea and pretended to have amnesia. Once Song Lioner was elevated, he would pretend to drink some medicine for a few days and blame it all on his memory loss. Then Zhu Yunhua wouldn't blame him, right? But he never expected her to produce divorce papers and force him to sign. Lu Jian was filled with regret. The only reason he had been willing to sign that day was because he believed that as long as Linjer, whom Zhu Yunhua adored, was still in the manor, there was still a chance for reconciliation. But when he learned that she had commissioned those divorce papers a year ago, his heart went cold. After more than a decade of marriage, he knew her personality best. Stubborn, unyielding even when faced with a dead end. Once she made a decision, no one could change it. But even after she had left, heartbroken, Song Lioner had still pursued her across 1,000 li to take her life. At this thought, rage consumed Lu Jian. He kicked open the door and dragged her from the bed. Caught off guard, Song Lioner could only beg Lu Jian to at least explain his fury, so she wouldn't die a wrongful death. Lu Jian sneered. That year you tested the medicine for Linjer, was it all a plot to poison Yunhua? Song Lioner's eyes widened. She wanted to deny it, but her expression had already betrayed her. Lu Jian's heart ached. And this time was the same. You won't rest until she is dead. Song Lioner denied it to the death. Lu Jian looked at the nanny beside her and ordered his men to drag her away for interrogation under torture. In less than an hour, the nanny confessed everything, including how Song Lioner had deliberately harmed her own body so she couldn't conceive, in order to claim Linjer as her own. When Lu Lingxuan returned to the residence and heard his father was about to punish his little mother, he rushed over just in time to hear the nanny say, "All these years, concubine Song cared for young Master Linjer only to drive a wedge between him and Mistress Zhu. When the young master was sickly as a child, it was concubine Song who poisoned him. Originally, she wanted to kill him to make Mistress Zhu suffer, but it was I who persuaded her to keep the boy, so she would have a chance to be elevated to a wife of equal standing in the future." Lu Lingxuan rushed forward and kicked the nanny in the chest. "You vile servant, how dare you frame my little mother?" The nanny, clutching her chest in pain, scrambled up. "Young master, even if I had 100 times the courage, I would not dare to frame her. Have you forgotten the bowl of silver ear fungus soup concubine Song had you drink when you were 8? Lu Lingxuan's brow tightened. Of course, he remembered. Shortly after drinking it, he had suffered from excruciating stomach pains. It was his little mother, who had performed 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows all the way to Beahua Temple to beg for an antidote that saved his life. That soup had been a gift from his mother to his little mother. But his little mother, seeing him sweating after returning from his studies, had given it to him instead. He had wanted to tell his father, but his kind-hearted little mother, not wanting him to completely break with his birth mother, had forced him to endure it in silence. From that day on, every time he saw his mother's hypocritical displays of affection, he would remember that bowl of deadly soup. Unable to bear it any longer, he had finally stormed into his mother's courtyard and told her, "In this life, I will always be my little mother's son. If it weren't for the fact that you are the matriarch of the Lu family, I would find the very sight of you disgusting." Lu Lingxuan dared not recall the look in his mother's eyes then. Grief, despair, like a shattered clay figure that he had ruthlessly crushed underfoot, turning it to dust. But wasn't that from Mistress Zhu? The nanny coughed violently and explained, "The soup was from Mistress Zhu, but the poison was added by concubine Song. She wanted to take your life that day, young master." Lu Lingxuan's vision went black, and he collapsed, caught only by the people beside him. "Impossible, little mother would never do this to me. Impossible." He shoved away the person supporting him and fell to his knees before concubine Song. "Little mother, tell me, she's lying, isn't she? You raised me. How could you do this to me?" Concubine Song slowly looked up at him. Gone was the loving kindness in her eyes, replaced by an endless, bottomless hatred. She hated Lu Lingxuan's eyes, so much like that high and mighty bitch's. She hated his face, a mirror image of that heartless man. Lu Jian was about to punish Song Liner immediately, but then a thought made him laugh. I don't need to punish you. You are poisoned yourself and will soon be tortured to death. I will make you experience everything Yunhua once went through. But concubine Song was fearless. She burst into laughter. You don't really think that giving me a taste of my own medicine will make Zhu Yunhua come back to you, do you? How ridiculous. Do you think I am the one she truly hates? Am I the one who created this situation? Concubine Song looked up at the man staring down at her. Since the day he broke his vow to her, he had always looked down on her like this. Why? Tears mixed with Song Liner's laughter. Because she was a concubine, a servant, while he had reached the highest echelons of officialdom. They were no longer equals. But she was not resigned. Why was it that he was the one who was unfaithful, yet she was the one who had to pay the price? Only today did she realize that the person she truly hated had always been Lu Jian. But she had always lied to herself, telling herself over and over, I hate Zhu Yunhua. She is the one who stole everything from me. She didn't dare to hate Lu Jian. Her life was hard enough. She couldn't hate her husband. He was her sky, her only support. But the hatred in her heart needed an outlet, and Zhu Yunhua became the perfect target. Since you took my body, you should never have developed feelings for Zhu Yunhua. Since you married Zhu Yunhua, you should never have let me into your manor. Did you think that by giving me a life of luxury, by snatching another woman's son from me, I would be happy and content, and then be eternally grateful to you? Your pathetic guilt is disgusting even to a dog. Song Liner's laughter bordered on madness. You ruined my life, and you ruined Zhu Yunhua's life. Do you think killing me will put an end to all of this? Drag her away, I don't want to see her again. Lu Jian's voice was almost a roar. Lu Lingxuan stared blankly at the scene. In an instant, everything he had ever believed in had crumbled. Their hatreds all had a source, but whom should he hate? When Lu Jian arrived, Yi Rong was bringing me a bowl of medicine. This is the last dose. After you drink this, your poison will be completely cured. I nodded and drank it in one gulp. Yin Shuang quickly placed a candied fruit in my mouth. My lady's suffering should finally be over. It's better to return to Jinling. I won't be at ease until I have an imperial physician examine you, Lu Jian said, looking at me with concern. There were no servants in this courtyard. If the gate was not shut tight, uninvited guests would wander in. Lord Lu, you are always trespassing on private property like this. Should I report you to the authorities? He smiled. Hearing your voice so clear, I know your health is indeed much better. He paused for a moment, then added, I know that all these years, it was that bitch Song Liner who framed you. I have already dealt with her. I will make her pay back the suffering you endured, 10 times, 100 times over. Enough, I looked at his triumphant expression with disgust. The enmity between her and me stems from you. If you hadn't been so greedy, wanting everything, Song Liner and I would never have crossed paths. She would not have become the twisted person she is today, and I would not have endured 15 years of torment. And now you stand here, gloating that you've avenged me. If you truly wanted to avenge me, you should have started by falling on your own sword. Lu Jian's arm trembled slightly. In a hoarse voice, he said, I have official duties to attend to. I will come see you another day. With that, he stumbled away. He fled back to his residence. Just now, Zhu Yunhua's eyes had looked so much like Song Liner's. They both hated him. He dared not dwell on the thought. Lu Lingxuan had appeared behind him at some point. He called out coldly, Father. Lu Jian turned to see him with a pack on his shoulders. Where are you going? Lion Cheng. What? Lu Lingxuan's voice was cold, but exceptionally firm. The military camp in Liangcheng is short of doctors. That is where I belong. Nonsense. Lu Jian was so angry he felt dizzy. You are my only son. How can you go to such a dangerous place? I am not here to ask for your permission. I have already decided. You. But Lu Lingxuan didn't even look at him. As he turned and left, Lu Jian looked at the vast, empty manor. Some were gone, some were dead. Now only he remained. Was it I who drove them all away? For a long time after, this question would haunt Lu Jian's nightmares. Mother, I'm going to the military camp in Liangcheng. What? I looked into Rongzher's eyes and knew he had already made his decision. In fact, he had made it long ago. It was my illness that had held him back. Don't worry, Mother. I'm just going to be a doctor, not a soldier on the front lines. I'll be fine. He did his best to comfort me. How could I not worry? Although he had traveled far and wide with his master since he was a child, he knew no martial arts. That was the front line, and the Hu people were so brutal. But I also knew I shouldn't hold him back. I'll go prepare some food for your journey. The moment I hid in the kitchen, I finally allowed my tears to fall. My lady, Rongjer, is blessed with great fortune. He survived such terrible injuries before. He will be fine. The next morning, Yin Shuang, Qinglu, and I saw Rongjer off at the city gate, where we saw a familiar figure. Mother! Lu Lingxuan walked quickly towards me, but upon seeing my cold gaze, he dared not say another word. Rongjer looked at the pack on his shoulder. Where are you going? Lu Lingxuan answered softly, Liang Cheng. Rongjer was stunned for a moment, then seemed to understand. To be a doctor. Lu Lingxuan nodded. Does your father know? He nodded again. He knows. Lu Lingxuan suddenly broke down in tears. Mother, I'm sorry. I was wrong before. I'm so sorry. I glanced at the sky, then straightened Rongjer's clothes, fighting back the sting in my nose. You should get going, or you won't make it before dark. Then your son is leaving. Lu Lingxuan wiped his tears. Take care, mother. I turned my face away, not looking at him. The two set off together. After only a few dozen steps, Rongjer threw an arm around Lu Lingxuan's shoulders, laughing and chatting about something. Rongjer, I couldn't help but call out. Rongjer and Lu Lingxuan turned around at the same time, the latter looking at me with hopeful, eager eyes. You must write back often. I will. I know. I watched their retreating backs, feeling an emptiness in my heart. Rongjer did write back often. I never received a single letter from Lingjer. But in each of Rongjer's letters, there were always 3 words. Mother be well, written in Lingjer's hand. Not long after they left, a woman came to see me, holding a thick ledger. It detailed all the evidence of Lu Jian's corruption and dereliction of duty over the years. After handing it to me, the woman left in a hurry. Yin Shuang watched her retreating figure. Why does she look so familiar? Qinglu slapped her forehead. Isn't that concubine Song's distant cousin? My lady, what does she mean by this? I clutched the ledger, remembering Lu Jian's vow to my father all those years ago. In this life, I will be as incorruptible and upright as my father, worthy of his majesty above and not failing the common people below. It turned out that of all the things he had once promised, he had not managed to keep a single one. 6 months later, Lu Jian, who had always been known for his integrity, was impeached for corruption. The emperor was furious and ordered the execution of his entire clan. However, Lu Lingxuan had saved many lives in the army and earned considerable merit. All the generals in the army jointly petitioned for leniency. The emperor only confiscated the Lu manor and executed Lu Jian, not implicating Lingjer. One New Year's Eve, Rongjer wrote back, saying their New Year's Eve meal was very good. They even had eggs to eat. In that letter, the 3 words, Mother be well, were still there.